It wasn't the time to reach those goals before, but it was my goal to reach. I just had to hang on to the parts of it that were motivating, inspiring to me, not give up and keep going at it one way or another. And then when it happens, it's even more rewarding because you went through so much to get there. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. I'm Erica Powell here with Lauren Widrick. So excited to have her as a guest spotlight speaker. We're so excited to have you here, Lauren. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you. This is an amazing opportunity to speak to your group. And Erica, we were just chatting. We've known each other for like 3 or 4 years, and it's just so nice to be together again and exchange energy. So thank you for having me.
I bet you anything it's longer than that. We're going to have to go back and see.
I know.
Well, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here. And Lauren, can you tell us a little bit about your company and what you do? Just give us the lowdown.
Yeah, I would love to. The first thing I will warn everybody is I do drop some F-bombs and some fun, spicy language. So if you're around kids, just go ahead and earmuff them or put in some earphones. My name is Lauren Widrick. I'm the founder of a company and a movement really called Grab Life by the Goals. And my mission is to help make your goals unfuckable with. So there's that first F-bomb. And to help you get there faster and funner than if you did it alone. Funner is grammatically incorrect, but probably the most important word, because I like to say goals don't matter if you're not happy and it's not creating the experience of life that you want.
There's no point in having a goal with your business. There's no point in having a business. There's no point in doing anything unless it's fun and you love it. So talk to everybody about sort of your journey as an entrepreneur. How did you decide to even start your own business? Where did it all begin for you?
My background is in corporate America. I went to school for information technology and grew up in investment banking. So I worked on the trading floor of a global bank on the commodities trading desk for most of that time. Rose the ranks quickly. I was very successful on paper. But like many of you, I had this moment, as I like to call it, this millennial life crisis of I'm good at this, I'm successful, I'm making money, but I don't care about this.
Yeah.
I don't care about investment banking. I don't care about software. I could keep going down this path and it would make sense because I've invested like 15, 20 years into it. On the other hand, that thought makes me want to hurl. Like, I don't think I can do bank software for the next 30 years. So it manifested in an actual like life breakdown. And I mean, just lost and trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. And it's kind of a fucked up thing to be successful and unhappy with it. It felt like it was wrong, because I had a great life. I had, a nice house and a husband and a daughter and a job. And I'm like, why aren't I happier? So I finally took a leap and hired a life coach, which at the time sounded very, I don't know, something to me. Like there was a stigma around it. I kept asking myself, like, is life coaching real? Should I be going to a licensed therapist instead? I sat down with this woman for 1 hour and she was the first person in my life, over all those years that was like, what do you actually want to do? Don't worry about if it's possible or if it's responsible. What the hell do you want to do? And I said to her that moment, I was like, I'd love to do what you do, but I don't think it's a real job. And we had like a laugh over that. She's like, it is a real job. I'm doing this thing. And she helped bust through my blockers. And within just a few months, I was like, okay, we're doing this. So I signed up for the world's most rigorous coach training program in New York City. I started flying there and launched my business as a side hustle to my investment banking job. Now, the funny part of the story is 2 months into that journey. So I'd started my business, signed a couple of clients right away and was like, whew, I'm going to be out of the bank in 6 months, running my own business. It's going to be great. I found out I was unexpectedly pregnant with a second daughter and was like faced with a dilemma. What do I do? Do I put this business on the back burner? It's only 8 weeks old. Or do I keep going? And I had my coach and I was in the coach training program. And that was a real pivotal moment because they're like, who do you want to be? What do you want your story to be 5, 10 years from now? Was it that you shrunk back or was it that you kept going? And so I kept going, returned to the business after that. And then I made my escape plan from corporate America and became a full-time life. And at that point, it was really focused on executive coaching. And then I've just been growing it from there.
And do you know what I love so much about that is the forward thinking focus on how do you want to remember this moment 10 years from now? This is a defining moment when you have to make a decision about your life, when you have to make a decision about what you're doing every day. And I feel like so many of us have been there, whether it's running a business and falling out of love with the business or working in a job and not loving that and not being aligned with that. And even though sometimes you're successful and you're doing really well, I usually say just because you can does not mean you should, right?
Ooh,
That's
so
something that
true.
I thought about years and years ago. It's just because I can work as an interior design consultant, which is what I was doing at the time, can make a shit ton of money, can sell a bunch of furniture, 80, $100,000 per month. This is where I was at that phase of my life. Doesn't mean
Wow.
you should. Maybe that's not what you're supposed to do. So I love that so much about you, Lauren. And I feel like we're similar in that mindset as well. And I love that for everyone here. I feel like if you can take nothing else
Mhm.
away from today and our conversation, it's if you are not happy with what you're doing, if you don't love what you're doing, it's time to make a change, right? And I bet you'd agree with me, Lauren.
Yeah, girl, I am shook. 80 to $100,000 a month in furniture sales. That takes real bravery to walk away from
Oh,
because
girl,
the
and
the
I was
path
a
of
young
least
20-year-old.
resistance.
Yeah, young
Yeah.
20-year-old, but I was bored. Whether you're working for somebody else or your business is a side hustle or you have a full bore business that you've created. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've had to make a life-altering decision about my business, and you just have to be a badass about it. It's like, if I'm not happy, why am I doing this, right?
That's it.
I'm with you.
I love that you said be a badass about it. I say you can make a sad ass choice or a badass choice. Like, what would a sad ass do? They would kind of keep going and complain. And, there's this quote that I use often with my clients, and it's from Eckhart Tolle. It's anytime a situation is unsatisfactory to you, you can either change the situation, accept the situation, or leave the situation, but all else is madness.
Yes.
And I like that all else is madness because to stay in a situation that's not aligned for you, but to do nothing about it will ultimately feel like madness to you. So,
Honestly, when you're in that decision point, literally anything is gonna feel like madness. Staying in the same place is gonna feel like madness. Trying
mhm,
something new and going outside of your comfort zone is gonna feel like madness too, right? And I remember back in the day, like this is way back when you also had Slay Your Side Hustle, right?
oh yeah, yep.
Kind of where it began, and then it morphed into this, like, just be a badass and do what you like, what are your goals? Let's dig in, let's figure it out, let's get it done,
Mhm.
let's make it happen.
Yeah. That's what it is. When I met Erica, we were in a mastermind together and I was doing purely entrepreneurship coaching and almost exclusively this one course called Slay Your Side Hustle. So
Yes.
after I escaped investment banking, so many people came to me and they're like, how did you do that? Because they, my colleagues knew what we made back in banking. And now you're a life coach. Like the math ain't mathin'. How are you keeping up with your income and your lifestyle? And so I'm like, okay, let me show you how. And so I created this course called Slay Your Side Hustle, Concept to Cash Flow in 90 Days. And it was for people working in demanding corporate jobs. I did that and only that for like 2.5 years. But then I had that moment again. So this can
Yes,
happen in corporate. This can happen in your business where you're like, what got me here isn't going to get me the next place. I love
exactly.
side hustles, but I can't only talk about side hustles for the next 30 years of my life.
Yeah.
So what is the next disruption point? So I have real life examples from my life and my clients' lives where we did things that made no sense on paper.
Yeah.
Truly, like this math shouldn't have been mathin', and yet it happened somehow. Everybody loves to set goals, but 92% of goals never come true.
Yep.
And only 3% of Americans have goals written down on paper. So the way people typically set goals is off the top of their head. So something's broken, I got to fix it. I got to lose 10 pounds. I don't make enough money, I got to make $20,000 at work. Like they just set these goals that they think will provide immediate relief. And they're not actually attached to what they want out of life, the experience, the growth, and the contribution they want to have. So these off the top goals are often shame based. They're often too small. I believe the people who set goals that are too safe and too small, those peter out quickly.
Yeah.
The people that set quantum big goals are actually easier to reach. I have a book. It's called 10X is Easier Than 2X.
It
And it's
is.
by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy. So it is easier. A 10X goal is easier to achieve than a 2X goal. So I've
Yeah,
been
people shoot
contemplating
for a
this.
2x goal for sure. It's like you're just barely doing more than what you're doing now.
Yes. So same shit, just twice as much. You are going to burn out and probably not hit your goal, period. But 10X requires you to behave and think completely differently. So I call this quantum thinking. And this is one of the things, I draw heavily from the people 10X is easier than 2X is not my concept, but there are ways that we can take it and apply it to our businesses, no matter what size or any of our goals, frankly.
We started our businesses in the first place to be free and to
Yeah.
have joy in our lives. And so many people get lost in the hustle of performing, doing, growing, giving, serving, all of the things. And they forget, you know what? I started this to be happy. I'm happier running my life the way I want to run it. I'm happier building my schedule the way I want to have it.
Yeah.
And we create our own chains in essence, right? When people are just focused on things that don't necessarily correlate or relate to what you actually want or need. And so that I love that concept that you have of the quantum goal setting. I love that.
One of my goals for 2023 that I'm inching toward is I want my workday to be 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. period, done. And so it's halfway through the year. I'm getting there. I'm not totally there yet. But there's this phenomenon called Parkinson's law, which says whatever amount of time you allocate to a task is the amount of time it will take. And the amount of work will swell to the amount of time allowed. Love that you pointed out the sticking with the goal, because I don't get everything right. I don't hit my goals the first time. There are things that took me years. For instance, when I started my side hustle, I thought I was going to be out in 6 months. I thought I'd be able to escape and do it full time 5 months later.
Yeah.
And it was 2.5 years. So if you do the math, you're like, wow, she failed pretty spectacularly on that goal. But what if I had given up? I would still be working in investment banking.
Just because you don't reach your goal right when you want to doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. I always say to myself, in the grand scheme of my life, if I accomplish this goal a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, 4, but it's a big goal and it's really important to me, does the time really matter? So like removing that time pressure sometimes is really helpful. I mean, that's just something I've learned with having the same revenue goals, the same income goals for so long, and finally like busting past them. I'm like, guess what? It wasn't the time to reach those goals before, but it was my goal to reach, right? I just had to hang on to the parts of it that were motivating, inspiring to me, not give up and keep going at it one way or another and finding a new angle. And then when it happens, it's even more rewarding because you went through so much to get there. I went through the same thing related to the goal by 40, right? I wanted to be rolling in dough and in the best shape of my life by the time I was 40. And I got there and there was this moment of frustration, like what the actual F, right? Like I've done everything, I've done all the things and I'm not quite there. I had the same conversation with myself. I was like, so what if it takes 2 more years, 3 more years, 1 more year? It doesn't matter. I just have to keep hanging on to the things that are important to me and go, right?
Don't quit, period. It could be one final test. I don't know if you believe in that, but sometimes the universe will be like, you're serious? Let me just throw this at you.
Oh, we totally believe in it. The bigger it is, the more force we're going to encounter. And we called it the oppositional force right before it.
Oh,
and
that's
so
great.
it is funny because I started calling it the oppositional force. And then my husband said, that's a military term, right? And I'm like, I had no clue, but thanks for enlightening me about this. And like, funny that I thought I made this up and yet it's a real thing. So oppositional force, 100%. The universe will test you. I do totally believe in that. And it happens time and time again in different ways, things coming up. You just have to find a way to gracefully get through it and stay on track. I feel like that's the name of the game.
It is having a little bit of faith in the process, whether you're launching a new product or whatever in your business. Those first 6-8 weeks, those first 6-8 months might be you building the foundation without seeing the fruits yet. Like you might be planting the seeds and they haven't yet sprouted and it can be so frustrating.
Yeah.
But you've got to have a mentor, somebody in the background being like, I've walked this road. This is how it goes at this stage. Keep going.
But it takes time. And like you said, just like we know with businesses and life and goals and things and the things that we work with our people on, it is so incredibly valuable to have a mentor to be able to talk to them and say, okay, I'm experiencing this. This has come up now. I don't know how to get through this. I've never been through this. And that is a most amazing thing about having a mentor or a coach or even being in a community that's going to lift you up. And
yes,
frustration is normal. Overwhelm is normal. Not hitting goals is totally normal.
So whatever your goals are, ask yourself that. What is the one thing that's going to make everything else easier? There's a book by that title, by the way, The One Thing. The one thing might be different. My one thing that makes everything else easier is speaking on stage.
Exactly.
So it could be, yours could be one-on-one conversations.
Yep.
Right? The more one-on-one conversations you have, the more clients you book. Like that could be your business model. So you may be somebody that just needs 10 clients a year.
A lot of our clients just need 10 clients per year for sure.
You just need to be a known entity in your space. There may be a totally different way to market.
Or social media might be your thing. That's the thing. Really, just think about what is that one thing that makes everything else fall together. Thank you so much for being a part of our community. We have to do this more often.
I agree. I'm reminded just how similarly we think and approach things, but you blew my mind today. I want to go back and take notes. There were a couple of truth bombs that I was like, whoa, Erica.
Best thing though, to chat with someone that you have so much in common with, and yet you're coming from a different life experience. And
Yeah.
so you have a different angle. And I love that so much about you too. And this is why we can never stop learning. We can never say, oh, I'm done learning. I know enough. I don't want to learn anything more. I don't want to listen to anything, because we rob ourselves from enjoyment of us connecting about things that we've never talked about before. We have so much in common, but yet we come at it from such a different angle because of our life experience, a different lens.
It's been a rich and joyful conversation.
That was my last question. When you think about rich and joyful, what does that mean to you? I would love to know.
These are some of my core values. So rich and joyful to me is being fully expressed, full expression, full freedom over time, working on what you want to work on. My 2024 goal is to be, I guess you could call it work optional. One of my goals is to have my passive income exceed my living expenses by the end of 2024.
Love.
So that nothing I spend my time on is required, so that all of my work is optional, thus making it what I want to do.
I love that. I'm also going to add here, those of you who are service entrepreneurs and you're like, I do not have passive income, that doesn't exist in my world. Guess what? It can. I've been able to carve out my role in our company, and our team who are doing the services that we have for our clients are far better than I am at the services that they're doing. You know, I talked about this on Instagram a couple of weeks ago, but passive income is possible for a service entrepreneur. You just have to build your business that way. So I want to add that piece in, because I know everyone's like, coaches and their passive income. I'm like, yeah, well, you can have it too. I just talked about that on Instagram a couple weeks ago. So if you missed the post about passive income, I pinned it up to the top. Check it out. Well, Lauren, thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad you're here. And we cannot wait to see you again. Thank you, Lauren.
I can't wait. We'll see everybody then.